Hello and welcome to Joyless Gaming, and you are reading that correctly. I played Dark Souls, and I don't really know why. So, for starters, is it good? No. There are no good games. That is just factual. Did I like it? No, because it's very frustrating in many, many areas. And will I play it again? I already did. I've got all of the achievements for it. Because I guess I hate myself. Anyway, I tried sort of scripting this, but I felt really forced. So I've just got some notes, I guess. I will say, to start off, that I did go into this with a lot of foreknowledge. I wasn't going in blind. For some reason lately I've been watching a bunch of Souls content, challenge runs and stuff, what have you. And I don't know, I saw the game go on special and just did something stupid. Anyway, so I decided to start with a thief because of high dexterity, free master key, and I could take firebombs as an extra gift. I had initially wanted to focus on parries and get something like a rapier, you know, sort of like parry riposte type stuff, which sort of occasionally happened. I ended up just sort of shuffling through a lot of dex weapons through the course of the play. And anyway, you see, running through the asylum, I didn't go and just kill him with the firebombs straight away. I went through the tutorial normally. And, stabbed the asylum demon in the head for the fall attack, and then threw the firebombs to finish him off. Yay, first try. So early part of the game, I did spend a lot of time just sort of trying to practice parries, farming up souls, essentially. I did, I sort of rushed through, maybe not rushed through, but I went through to take a shot at the Taurus demon that was quite silly because I only had one Estus left at the time. And so I went back to farming and training and decided to make use of the master key that I'd started with and went the back way into the Undead parish to go through in reverse rather than the intended direction. And dealing with the pig was a bit of an issue. If I put this footage in there, I think damn near every armored boar that I came across dropped the helmet, which was very strange. I didn't realize that they were not supposed to just drop it all the time. I unlocked the, obviously going backwards, I unlocked the bridge shortcut and just started farming. I did a lot of farming with the Drake on the bridge. And I ended up getting a lot of humanity out of that too, and it made me anxious because I was always worried about losing it. And eventually I just started kindling bonfires, so that at the very least if I was losing it, I was using it first. So after a bunch of farming, I went back. I did make several attempts at the Taurus demon, but then I took the break and then I went back. I think part of my problem, and even on the winning attempt, part of the problem was I kept on sort of fishing to get the bleed procs rather than just, chucking more black firebombs, why not? So, yeah. And honestly, beating it, the reward was quite piddly for how annoying it was to do. Oh yeah, for some reason, it wasn't until after this, and after a bunch of extra farming and stuff, that I actually went from the parish and unlocked the shortcut to Filing Shrine. I don't know why it took me so long. Having done all of that, and I kind of, despite having the having the master key, I still sort of went through the intended route of the game. I don't know why. Mainly because, despite the knowledge I had no experience. So, knowing where certain things were, but not really knowing how to get to where they were, was a bit of an issue. So, I was very cautious through most of my gameplay, and by the time I went into the lower Undead Burg, it was after nearly 10 hours of playtime. So, yeah. Rescue Griggs and deal with more thieves down there, ready to ambush me. And, okay, the bane of every new player, the Capra Demon. I didn't even fight the Capra Demon, I just threw firebombs at it from outside the fog door, and I don't care. And then I decided it was for some actual progress, like story progress. I went to do the gargoyles, and I summoned Solaire to get help, but he did a lot more damage than I did, so I did kill the second one I did a kill steal on the second one. I didn't ring the bell immediately because I had kind of forgotten that I hadn't found Lautrec. And then I went and found where he was supposed to have been, and it turns out he lets himself out if you beat the gargoyles. So anyway, I kicked Lautrec off the ledge. Didn't use his ring for ages. Then I went and rang the bell. Then was into the depths, got the large ember and freed Laurentius. And I freed Laurentius, but it was a while before I was actually using pyromancy, but I did eventually start using pyromancy to supplement the build. It was probably a bit early that I went back to the asylum to fight some Black Knights, and I was able to deal with them eventually, and collected the doll very early. I went back to the depths and I actually got invaded by Kirk. And I kind of felt, maybe I was wrong, but I kind of felt ready to take on the Gaping Dragon, and I also got Solaire for a little help, and I do mean little help because he wasn't as good in this fight as in the gargoyle fight. But I pulled through, and I even cut off the dragon's tail to get the axe that I'll never use because I was not playing a strength build. I then thought I'll go and do the Moonlight Butterfly. Everyone says that's a nice easy one. So I even despite that, I summoned Witch Beatrice to get help, and she did not need my help. I did get hit by the Moonlight Butterfly, but I didn't hit it at all. It was just, I did not hit it at all. And I got the Divine Ember, which means I could make something for killing skeletons, even though I was playing Dexterity, and stupidly, I made a Rapier Divine, and Thrusting Sword is like the worst thing to fight skeletons with. Anyway. And yeah, again, back and forth, I went all over the place. I went back to the asylum again, and thought I'll do the Stray Demon. And, you know, this one was bad because the arena is small and still got pillars in it that are around the edges of it. The lock-on wasn't helping. And, yeah, it took me a few tries. But from that, I used the souls to buy the Crest of Artorias and started killing the Forest Hunters for a while, which was a slightly better soul farming technique. Then I went to the worst area in the game, the Catacombs. Yeah. Fell down a hole, but not where I was supposed to fall down the hole, because you're supposed to fall into a slightly different part of that hole to hit a cutscene to safely land. And meet the weirdest NPC character, blacksmith, in the game, who is surrounded by bone wheels. And they are just awful. I figured while I was there, I'd go for Pinwheel, and I'd wanted to get the summon because I knew there was a summon for it, but I didn't actually know where it was. It turns out it's in a kind of a crappy spot, and you have to fall from up in the catacombs, not down in the bottom of it. You have to fall from higher up to get the summon, which is really stupid. But I'm glad that I didn't die to Pinwheel, though, because that would have been embarrassing. Oh, and for those curious, I got the Mask of the Mother, which I used quite a bit during the game because I like having extra health. After trying and failing to climb out of the hellhole that is the Catacombs, I decided to go into the worst area in the game, the Tomb of the Giants. And I regretted it. I also regretted trusting Patches. I'm just kidding, I didn't really trust him, I knew what would happen. I died down the hole trying to fight off the now hollow clerics. And because the last bonfire I'd rested at was back next to Valmos, I was surrounded by bone wheels again. So for some reason I decided to push back into Tomb of the Giants. I did get the Silver Serpent Ring, which I guess was kind of worth it. I did manage to go back and actually successfully kill the clerics and save... what was her name? Rhea? Anyway. And I made a death run to the large Divine Ember as well, because you get to keep it once you pick it up, even if you die immediately afterwards. And then there was another attempt to climb out, and it took a while. And there were many bone wheels. But, yeah, after finally making it back to daylight, I thought, alright, let's go to the worst area in the game, Blighttown. For some reason, as I said, I tried to go through the intended path, so I went through the front. And it was very slow going. The platforming was obnoxious, especially having to make a jump to get a sword called Iaito, which was very useful for me. I actually used it for many boss fights once I had it upgraded. Mainly because of the vertical hitbox on it. Okay, so eventually made it down to the ground. Well, I say the ground, the swamp. And I fought Mildred, so I could get her help fighting Quelaag. And she helped, yeah. But we won. And I rang the second bell after more than 25 hours of playtime. So I really, really took my time. So, nothing else going on, I suppose. I went off to Sens Fortress. I didn't like Sens Fortress, but at least not the first time. I have since played the game a couple of times, so my character's on like New Game Plus 3. And Sens Fortress got worse, but it was relatively small compared to things like Blighttown in particular. So I didn't hate it as much as the other areas. And I also had to look around to find where the summon was, because I was pretty sure there was a summon for the Iron Golem, and there was. And, yeah, he carried the fight for me. So, thank you, Iron Tarkus. So, following that, quite obviously, is the worst area in the game. Anor Londo, the land of rooftops and rafters, and garbage platforming. It was very annoying running across that rooftop just to get shot off at the end by those bloody silver archers. So, I retreated and went back through Sens Fortress and just thought I will do other things before that. And it was at this point I finally decided that it was time to fap. Sorry. Feels like a forced joke, but I kind of felt like some jokes need to be in there somewhere. I had originally not wanted to use it. Well, not that I didn't want to use it, I was just thought if I suddenly wanted another ring, then I didn't want it to break taking it off, but that sort of, it did become hard to let go of that ring. It's actually really quite good. And so in running around trying to find other stuff to do, I went and fought the Hydra in Darkroot Basin. And I don't know why it has so many heads when it only needs one to survive, apparently. Yeah, I was spending a lot of time avoiding going to the worst area in the game, so I went to the worst area in the game, the Great Hollow. Because if you wanted more terrible FromSoft platforming, this is really the place for you. And, should mention here, incidentally, I didn't even find the basilisks to be much of a problem. I was always cautious of them because of the threat of being cursed, but I was never cursed during the entire run of the game. But damn, the platforming down this bunch of tree branches and roots and stuff, it's awful. A lot of really good, crafting materials, upgrade materials. Yeah. I didn't stay at Ash Lake once I got to the bottom, because then I'd have to go up through the Great Hollow again, so I did a home and bone. And I finally got around to upgrading my Pyromancy Flame, so I could meet Quelana down in Blighttown, because, yeah, I wanted to go back into Blighttown for some reason. Thanked her for her help by going to murder her brother. But at least I put him out of his misery? Yeah. Anyway. I've farmed for quite a while, just for the purposes of fully upgrading my Pyromancy Flame, and decided that having done that, it was time to go back to Anor Londo and go to the Painted World so I could kill the spear slimes, phalanx, whatever, to farm souls. I was very confused by the undead dragon. I didn't realize that it would trigger when you got close enough to it. I kept on trying to attack it from a distance and it did nothing. And it was very annoying. It actually killed me a couple of times trying to kill it because it just knocked me off the ledge or whatever. Often it was knocking me off the ledge, despite the fact that I couldn't run through its talons, but it could just sort of make me phase through them for no reason. And I didn't bother dealing with the bone wheels down in the Painted World, so I just did the jump attack on the dragon butt and said hi to Priscilla and then left. So I went back to try to do the bloody rooftops. Got through on this attempt. It was many previous attempts before I took the break, and I made it through on the first attempt after the break. I don't really think that helped, but it just felt like luck more than anything. It was running through Anor Londo really hit home that all of this stuff, they're going about how they want my help. They want me to succeed Gwyn and link the fire, and yet they're going out of their way to get in my way. I even had to open the front door from the inside. Anyway, nearly had the fast travel system. I just had to get through Ornstein and Smough. Because, yeah, let's put 2 bosses there. Why not? Anyway, I fought through the giants in the main hall so that I could summon Solaire, because then at least the fight's a 2v2. Took down the big boy first, mainly because I knew that I could make a spear out of Ornstein, and thrusting weapons, it turns out, you can use while hiding behind a shield, which became one of my go-to strategies. But right at the end, Solaire really did help. So, thank you again, especially after not doing so well with the Gaping Dragon. Now, once I got the Lord Vessel, I went on foot back to Firelink, because for some reason I thought you only got the fast travel after you placed the Lord Vessel and didn't bother checking with a bonfire menu. So, engaging fast travel, I went back to find the giant blacksmith, who I actually sort of missed on my first time through the hall. And I made my scimitar that I'd been using a lot into Quaelag's Fury Sword, which I occasionally used. And I turned a +10 spear into the Dragon Slayer spear, which I didn't use until New Game Plus because it had a high strength requirement. And I also grabbed the Hawk Ring while I was there because I had been doing a lot of bow cheese for enemies, so it made it more effective. This will be important later. So, now I had to go and track down the Lords, so I went off to the worst area in the game, the Duke's Archives. They thought, you know what, all these little crystal dudes that hit really hard despite the fact that they're piddly little enemies, they need a buff, so let's put some channelers in there. Respawning channelers, why not? And then, of course, yeah, the semi-scripted, well, it is pretty much scripted, intended death to Seath. Luckily, I had a rare ring of sacrifice. Cooked some seafood and killed the music. And then, after lighting the bonfire, I decided this was the time before I forget to go and open the shortcut in the demon ruins so that I could spare Solaire from going mad. And while I was there, I thought, Demon Fire Sage is right there. Reminded me a lot of the Stray Demon, but was a lot less frustrating. The thing to point out that I didn't actually know is that upstairs from the Demon Fire Sage, there's actually a lift that's a shortcut back to the Daughter of Chaos. It's quite obvious in retrospect, but it was very convenient. Because right down the stairs was another boss fight, the Centipede Demon, for which I could get Solaire's help, and, well, it was a mess from both of us. Because he seemed to be ignorant of how lava works. But we pulled through. And so while I was down in the fire pit, I guess I figured it was time for the worst boss with the best name, the Bed of Chaos. Really is a cool name. Terrible boss though. And funnily enough, I had actually heard about a firebomb cheese method, but didn't look up how to do it, so I attempted it without knowing how it worked, which was really silly. So I just did it, air quotes, normally. I got knocked in holes several times. And it's unfortunate that there's a lot of spectacle that this boss has that you just don't get to see because you have to look at the ground all the time so that you don't fall in a hole. Anyway, I get a reward for killing the Bed of Chaos from Kaelana. I killed her mum, so she gives me Fire Tempest. Which seems like it's failing to learn from history, but... And I took this gift to share it with the painted world, and it was a very enriching experience. Then, I went to a dogfight. And I must say, it went better than I expected. I don't know how I managed to pull through on that so relatively easily. But before going into the pit of madness and darkness that is the Abyss, I went into the pit of madness and darkness that is the Tomb of the Giants. Now, I found the second bonfire, and I thought this is a good spot for making attempts at Nito because it's closer, and it really was annoying trying to get past the last section of the tomb and the first section of the run-up to Nito's boss room. But by the time I actually got there, I had no Estus left, so I just thought, I'm not going to bother with Nito right now, and went to fight the Hydra at Ash Lake. I guess I was just frustrated and wanted to kill something. I must have been really frustrated because I decided that after that, I'd go to the worst area in the game, New Londo. Because... Anyway. Eventually got through the ghost house, got the key to the seal, drained the water, eventually found the very large ember, and decided to just leave. Because I can come back later. So, for some reason now, thinking of darkness, I went back to the painted world and went down the well to fight the bone wheels. And it sucked. But I won. Then I opened the gate and went and killed Priscilla. Sorry. But if it makes you feel better, I failed to get the tail weapon, so... Back out into Anor Londo, and while I was there, I decided to go downstairs and kill Gwendolyn, because why not? It wasn't a very smooth attempt, you know, because he's got the magic railgun and the SMG bow attack and the stupid little magic orbs. The camera was not particularly helpful either, but I chased down the little prick and ended him. And I did a bunch of running around doing stuff, I don't know. My notes are not the best. I thought I'd go and take a crack at Seath, which took me to the worst area in the game, Crystal Cave, because let's make the platforming bad and then make the platforms invisible. I don't see the connection between crystals and clams. Why are there clams? Anyway. I smashed Seath's God Mode crystal and then cooked the lizard. Because, why not? So I went back down now into the Tomb of the Giants. Take a crack at Nito, and I still had Estus when I made it there, and the fight was quite a shambles. I mistimed a lot of dodges, and I got a bit greedy near the end, but it actually ended, so that was something. So, only one Lord Soul left. And I had originally wanted to summon Beatrice again for help with this, but I'd read about how a lot of people consider that her presence makes the fight harder because it adds health and she doesn't really do so well against the Four Kings. And I didn't want to have to clear a bunch of new Londo to be able to get her there safely either. So I looked up a shortcut to the boss fog, which was really quite close to the entrance, and I guess that's why Ingwood was actually up there on that rooftop, because he was looking right at it. And now, yeah, I didn't do... well, I quite foolishly went for a drink after the first king was down, instead of dealing more damage while they were fading out. But it turned out I had sufficiently over-prepared and actually did quite well against the Four Kings, individually, and therefore collectively. So, basically all the bosses done. There was no putting it off. Time to head off to the worst area in the game, Ulasil. Yeah. It's the remastered version, so already had the DLC in there. I didn't even manage to touch the Sanctuary Guardian on the first attempt. But I'll take this moment to explain particularly my thought process and failings during the DLC. I had this stupid habit of trying to emulate the basics of what all of the one-shot challenges did from the Backlogs one-shot challenge. That I tried to start pretty much every fight with getting a chunk of damage from either Fire Tempest or Chaos Storm, usually Chaos Storm. And it sort of helped in the winning attempt against the Guardian, but I kept on using it when I probably should have just tried to fight normally, which was very apparent with the next boss, everyone's favorite for some reason. And yeah, I kept on trying to start with chunk of damage from Chaos Storm, and on the winning attempt, it was mostly just trying to dodge and counterattack, which I should have started doing, because that was really frustrating. Especially since there's no bonfire right before that boss fight, there's one right after that boss fight. Anyway. I was happy to divest myself of Artorias' soul, because the two weapons I got in reward for that were actually both weapons I could use with my build. I got invaded by Marvelous Chester, and he just, sucked and died. He was not very marvelous. Oh yeah, then I got to be assaulted by dark magic while doing stupid platforming again, which was a reminder of Blighttown and the stupid toxic spitters. Oh yeah, this thing. I don't know what this thing is, but I really wish fire had been more effective against it. And I only got 1,000 souls for it. Anyway. Chasm of the Abyss. With its illusory ledges, not just illusory walls. But I follow the ghost cat to the ghost dog, or the, you know, I saved Sif and it's going to be awkward later, I'm sure. Now, eventually, obviously, Manus. Now, I know from all the stuff I've seen that Manus, he was going to be tough. And I gave it a couple of tries, where again, I was still being silly and trying to get chunks of damage early on. But because of Artorias, I really was not in the mood. And unlike Artorias, Manus is particularly vulnerable to cheese. So I shot him from outside the fog door. But I did go and finish him off face to face. Another part of the reason I was fine with cheesing Manus was Calamite was not as cheesable to me, as far as I understood it. First death doesn't count because it's sort of forced, I think. Maybe I could have just gone and seen him and then asked for help without getting killed by him, I don't know. I tried a couple of times to get a plunging attack because it turns out apparently you can, but I just got killed by Calamite going up the ladder. So I just had to stay close, stay under him, not get grabbed, and eventually win and get the dumbest ring imaginable. So, that all done, there was only one boss left. I made sure I had company. And I think we both did pretty well. Now, yeah, as I said, they said they wanted my help, but they really didn't act like it. So instead of watching the world burn, I just watched it die. You know, darkness is the natural state of the universe. Anyway, if there's some semblance of closing thoughts, if this has been even semi-coherent, I don't know. Like, I didn't intend to do all the bosses, but I just eventually ended up killing them all anyway. And I found, despite how people talk about the bosses were the least of the problem. It was either getting to the bosses, or getting back to the bosses. Like, everything else was what was awful. You know, getting through Blighttown was awful. Getting through the Great Hollow was awful. Getting across the bloody rooftops and the rafters of Anor Londo was awful. Just everything else, apart from the bosses. Bosses can be frustrating, but at the same time, like if they just put a bonfire right in front of every boss room, which I understand they've basically done that for Elden Ring, it means that you can just keep attempting the boss, but when it's every other part of the game that you have to get through, that it's just... It's just awful. I don't know why. I don't know why I did this to myself. Sad to say, I don't know why I'm still doing this to myself. I haven't stopped actually playing the bloody thing. In fact, the footage that you would have seen during this video, if you even watched this video, if I even make this video, is that that's several weeks old as time of recording, so... anyway. Yeah. This is a thing I did to myself. I'm sorry, me, and I'm sorry you for sitting through this awful nonsense from me. Bye for now.